Arcade Heroes.
Hey everybody, I'm back. It's Adam with ArcadeHeroes.com, and while I did just post a lengthy video about all the new arcade releases, I found out about another one that happened right shortly after I had finished uploading and posting that video. And so here's an addendum to what I did earlier today. And now this was a big surprise to me because, as I recall, if I am recalling correctly, when I saw the new Need for Speed Heat Takedown at IAPA 2022, also known just as NFS Heat Takedown, I was told that it was going to be shipping out maybe sometime in the spring, like after Dead Heat Unleashed was probably going to be landing. And so I really was not expecting that today that we were going to get a confirmation on that, but I noticed that Adrenaline Amusements, who's the manufacturer of this one for North America, it's being sold in Europe through Bandai Namco Amusements Europe, although they represent Adrenaline Amusements and all that. I noticed that they were posting on social media. Like, Adrenaline does not post very often, but they were posting about this game. And since they did so on LinkedIn, I decided to throw out, oh, hey, is this shipping yet? I also sent a message to a distributor friend of mine where he said it would be shipping this month, which is where I was first like, oh, okay. And then Adrenaline confirmed on LinkedIn that, yes, it's shipping now. So it's like, okay, here we go. So this is the page, as you see, if you go to aagames.com, that's Adrenaline's website, has this showing the 4 units linked together. As mentioned here, and as I saw at the show, it has 5 tracks and 5 licensed supercars. It's not the biggest selection of tracks and supercars, or just vehicles in general, compared to all the racers out there. But, still, I guess, enough to please fans, I would guess. But when do I not get to adjust this? I guess not. That's embedded there, and it's not letting me adjust the volume. So I'll go to one of my videos. So the post is on arcadeheroes.com right now. So I have footage from playing this at the show. One thing that I found impressive, and as I mentioned in the blog post, that the graphics on this are great. I mean, no, are they the best of the best that you've ever seen? No, but it's still noticeably good, and this obviously comes from the fact that this comes from a console game, and so this is a console to arcade port, which happens more frequently than it used to. I know a lot of fans out there would prefer to have more arcade to console ports, as I know some of you out there want everything that comes out in arcades to be ported over. But in case you're looking at this and wondering, well, if I can get this on console, why would I want to play it on arcade? Well, one of the cool things about it is you can see you have this LED billboard, which it's hard for them to render how it looks in person exactly. That's a nice touch, but that obviously doesn't affect the gameplay itself. The most significant thing about this is when you are playing, the sound system that they used on this is significantly and noticeably better than any of the other sound systems on any of the other racing games that I played at IAPA 2022. And that's something I'll talk about in a moment, is just there's a lot of them out there, but just it's often called the rump thump when they have bass in the seat, but it's working like it should. Because that's the thing, is most arcade racers actually do have a subwoofer in the seat, but not all of them have it working where it's really providing force feedback. And I do recall hearing Adrenaline talk about how they did use something a little more significant than a subwoofer, a particular feedback device to provide that. But also the surround mix in this game was also noticeably good. There is a commentator on it who they hired just to do special voiceovers or unique voiceovers for this version of the game, and you distinctly hear his voice in the rear speakers. And sometimes surround mixes in some of these games isn't perfect, but in this one it was really well done. Pause that there. And in fact, this lo-fi video, if you already saw this direct capture that I did, that I posted, I grabbed this from Facebook from the guy who did the voiceovers. He posted this the week of IAPA since he was finally allowed to talk about it. And so, but again, as I mentioned in the post, don't take this video as gospel as to how the game looks. It looks really, really nice in person. Unfortunately, what I got here was captured off of Facebook, which was already compressed, and then doing that capture compresses it further. And then it also was a version of the game that was done before the IAPA version or the EAG trade show version. And one thing I noticed in looking at it, just like right here, the lighting effects on this don't look as finished or complete as just what you saw up there. But yeah, so this is shipping now, the standard version, and that's something to note as well, that there is another version of this that we've seen out on test. I know somewhere there was a better photo of this. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it, so my apologies to Adrenaline, because I know on this one it's not perfect because it has an out-of-service thing there, but that'll happen with location test games. You don't want it happening with your production models, but that's one reason why you go to test, see what's broken so you can fix it. But the deluxe version, as you can tell, bigger screen as well as a motion base. Now, the most interesting thing that I discovered about this deluxe version at IAPA is that, so a while back, I received a photo of a game that Adrenaline was testing called Drakens, and it appeared to be a dragon riding action game. I've never seen it in motion, so I don't know exactly how it played, although I was told at IAPA that it was almost like the old Blazing Angels arcade, where it wasn't on rails, and so you could fly around, and there was these mountainous regions, and I think you could shoot fireballs at stuff. Not sure what stuff you might have been shooting, but that also used a motion base. And so while Adrenaline's apparently not decided to release Drakens, they still took the technology that they began experimenting with, the motion base, on that, and are now using that in the deluxe version of NFS Heat Takedown. So I'm not sure what might be unique about this motion base or not. Most of them these days aren't hydraulics or pneumatics. They're just air bladders and powered by an air compressor. That's been a much cheaper way to do this technology compared to hydraulics, and so I wouldn't be surprised if it's some sort of variation on that, but not 100% sure. We'll have to wait and see. My best guess on when the deluxe version might show up would be maybe summertime. I don't know. I mean, usually arcade manufacturers will not release multiple versions of a cabinet at the same time. They'll do one, see how well it sells, and then when its sales start to taper off, then they'll look at another one. Although in most cases in recent times, it's been the deluxe or the super deluxe gets released first, then some months or sometimes even years later, a standard version comes along, and they want to get the deluxes out first because that appeals to big FECs like Dave & Buster's and Round 1 USA and so on. But I am happy to see the standard version getting the first love as opposed to the deluxe in this case. And as I talk about in this paragraph on the post, the reason being is that, as my other video showed, there's a lot of racers that you can now buy for if you're someone like me running an arcade. I have a lot of options out there, and I really like that. I'm very happy for that, and it's just, I do wonder how this is going to all shake out, because there's so many racers suddenly hitting the market at almost the same time. I mean, particularly right now in February, as We have Storm Rider 2 by Sega, we have Drone Racing Genesis by Sega, and now we have NFS Heat Takedown by Adrenaline Amusements. I don't know if Dead Heat Unleashed is also going to start shipping here in the next few weeks or not. I was expecting that one to be more March or April, but who knows now. But of course, prior to this, you already had Asphalt 9 Legends Arcade in the standard, deluxe, and VR versions. The VR version just came out a few months ago. There's Fast and Furious Arcade by Raw Thrills that started shipping in October, November, around there. Raw Thrills also showed off MotoGP VR, which they're saying will be shipping around April. And I might be forgetting somebody else out there that has a racer, but still, there's a lot of racing games, and that's not already counting other ones that are shipping that have been out for a while, like Cruise and Blast. I believe they're still shipping those. Maximum Tune 5 DX Plus dedicated units are still shipping. I'm kind of at a loss now. I imagine ATV Slam by Sega is also probably still shipping. Daytona Championships USA probably would be. Unfortunately, one frustrating thing about covering this industry is oftentimes manufacturers don't really announce these things. Sometimes they do, but sometimes it's just, suddenly there. And the same thing applies to when they stop production. It's very, very rare that they'll announce that something's no longer in production, so we just don't know. But one thing I did find out is that the pricing on the standard version of NFS Heat Takedown is pretty good. It's somewhere between, I would guess, $13,000 to $15,000 per cabinet. Now, if you asked me 5 years ago if that would be a good price, I'd say no. But of course, post-pandemic and all the inflation that's gone on, supply chain issues, unfortunately no arcade racer, or very few, would be under $10,000 at this point. So now Sega's Drone Racing Genesis, I also think, is around the same area of the 12 to 13 mark per unit. And Cruise and Blasts, I also believe, are around there. Asphalt 9 Legends Arcade Standard is higher by what I understand, although I don't know the precise cost on that. Sometimes I get pricing in distributor pricing, and or that's what I'm told, and not what they're selling it for. And so I think you have to mark it up, a few $1,000s in a lot of instances. But I know Asphalt is closer to $20,000 on that one, and then the deluxe is over $20,000. But of course, Fast and Furious Arcade is somewhere around the $25,000 mark. And so if you were an operator on a budget like me and you were wanting to get something new and looking at, say, Fast and Furious Arcade at $25,000 for one unit, and NFS Heat Takedown at around $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 per unit. Which ones am I probably going to go for? I'd go for the NFS Heat. And I guess that would be a question too. Would you do this or Drone Racing Genesis? And, well, I really did like what I saw on NFS Heat. I didn't have any complaints about that, whereas on Drone Racing, I still would want to play the final version to see if the controls were done better, better calibrated or something. Be with on that particular game, but with NFS Heat, I didn't come across anything that was a complaint. The controls were fine, the graphics were awesome, the sound was awesome. So yeah, it's I guess that's where I would go for. But at the moment, I'm not personally looking to buying anything, as I recently packed my arcade with 17 additional games, 21 if you count each cabinet individually. And so, yeah, but for those out there who are interested in Need for Speed or NFS Heat, yep, it's back in arcades and it's shipping now, so you'll probably start seeing these at a local arcade, assuming that local arcade is one that likes to grab newer releases. Again, the big names out there like Dave & Buster's, Round 1 USA, chances of you finding one of these there could be higher, although perhaps they might be waiting until the deluxe versions come out. I don't know. But yeah, what do you think about this one from this news, and what do you think about all the racers out there on the market as well? If I was an arcade manufacturer, I might want to be releasing maybe a light gun game or something at this point, so as to not have to be battling it out with so many other racers. But you know, again, it's good for us operators that we have choices, especially with different prices out there. But thanks for watching this one. We'll catch you on the next video.